Hi Year 9, I hope you're all doing well. This video is just to give you guys some feedback on the work that you've completed over the last few lessons. As part of your remote learning, we thought it would be useful to give you all some feedback on the work that you have been completing so that you know what you're doing well, what things you might need to look at in a little bit more detail, and just some extra information that could be useful moving forward into your lessons. So this feedback here focuses on the work that you completed last week up until this Monday. So up until you sent in the piece of written work on the Monday that's just gone. The first 4 lessons, okay? And over the course of those 4 lessons, your task was you slowly built up a description of an image, all right, based off some images in the videos. You worked on some sentence level writing activities and you focused on appositive, subordinating conjunctions and sentence types, all right? All 3 of those being really handy things to use, especially in descriptive writing. For example, with appositives, as you now know, it's a way of adding in more detail to what it is that you're writing. It allows you to expand on your ideas, and when it comes to writing descriptively, that is really handy to help you get that extra information in. You looked at subordinating conjunctions, or words that you could put at the beginning of a clause, normally a subordinate clause, that help you in your descriptions and help you lead on to another thought or idea, and the different sentence types that you looked at, which I'll look at in a bit more detail a little bit later on. First of all, just a bit of whole class feedback. The work that I did get sent in was very, very descriptive. I thank you for that. I know that was the aim of the 4 lessons, but I could see that you've been following the process in the lessons, in the videos, and it did lead to some very, very descriptive writing that helped to create a really vivid image in my mind when I read through it. You had a wonderful use of conjunctions within your writing. You really took on what the video lesson said about including conjunctions within your writing to sort of vary your sentence openings and vary what you include in your writing. There was a really good range of vocabulary. And that last one, which I've now corrected, is that you used a really wide range of punctuation in your writing as well. Punctuation can be just as important as the language that you use because it helps prompt the reader to take a pause or to stop or to think about what it is you are saying. It helps to control the flow of your writing, most definitely a correct use of punctuation within writing. One thing I did want to make a note of is about using commas after subordinating conjunctions at the start of a sentence. I know we covered this briefly in class back before Christmas, but I just thought it was something I'd mention here just from reading some of your work. So I'm aware that you were asked to use subordinating conjunctions, especially at the start of a subordinate clause. And the key is that when you do use these, you need to ensure that you are punctuating things correctly. So I know that the rule we looked at before was when you use a subordinate clause in a sentence, if that subordinate clause comes at the start of the sentence, then you do need to place a comma after it. And we also looked at discourse markers as well, words that you often put at the start of sentences to kind of signify what you're about to do in that sentence. So in these examples here, I will move that out a moment so that I can edit it. I've got a few different sentence types here, and I'm just going to look at what you might need to do in order to ensure they are being punctuated correctly. So this first sentence here, I put, meanwhile, the grass blew in the breeze. Okay, so at the beginning of that sentence there, we do have a subordinating conjunction. We do have, we could also call it a discourse marker, all right? It's signifying what's going to be discussed in this sentence, all right? So in this sentence, we're discussing what was happening meanwhile something else was happening. So you do need to put a comma after words like that, okay, after signifiers like that. On to the second example there. After the sky cleared, the harvest could begin. In this instance, this sentence is beginning with a subordinated conjunction, which tells us that the first part of the sentence is going to be a subordinate clause. So in this sentence, for example, the harvest could begin is our independent clause, is our main clause. All right, it contains the subject and the verb and the main subject and verb of the sentence. That phrase that's highlighted makes sense on its own. However, this first section here does not make sense on its own. It adds additional information. All right, this is the subordinate clause at the beginning here, and because it features at the start of the sentence, then you do need to include a comma after it. Okay, should you flip the 2 parts of the sentence around and the sentence became the harvest could begin after the sky cleared, you would not need to include a comma in that example there. All right, when you have a subordinate clause after a main clause, you do not need to include a comma. Okay. And then there's just another example here, another subordinating conjunction. There is the word whenever, or whenever the sun retreated, a comma there because that is a subordinate clause at the start of the sentence. The darkness spread forth. All right, so that is the correct punctuation in linking to that sentence. And the last thing I just thought I'd do in this video is just to recap those sentence types that were covered in the video lessons and just discuss about why each of these might be really, really useful when it comes to descriptive writing. So I know a lot of you did include a question in the descriptive writing that you sent in. You opened your writing with a question as directed to in the video. And this can be a really useful technique because it does get the audience thinking. I know the majority of your opening questions was, have you ever seen a scene like this, or have you ever seen you know, what the fields are like in Kansas, or however you chose to open it. All right, but framing it in that way is going to make the audience perhaps think, well, no, I haven't. They might be more likely to pay attention to what you're writing, to build an image in their head of what this place might look like that you're talking about. So that can be a really useful way of opening up some descriptive writing at times. The second sentence type you looked at were commands, all right? And these are sentences that begin with verbs and give an instruction or a command. They often include imperative verbs. So it's, you know, you will fight, you will die, as examples from speeches that you might see around, like words like fight. It's what you're asking the audience to do, essentially, all right? But the way that it's framed, where it sounds commanding, they're perhaps more likely to do it. And this is another form of sentence you may want to include in descriptive writing at times if you want the audience to think or feel a particular way about a certain thing. Those can be really useful types of sentences to include. Statement sentences, sentences that give information and description. You guys were already including those, all right? They're ones, especially when it comes to description, they become quite useful when you're describing what something looked like. You're stating how it appeared. And then finally, you have exclamations down there. These are sentences that show heightened emotions. These are also sentences that can prove really useful in creative writing, because it tells the audience that they need to feel a particular way about it, that it is something that is worth using an exclamation mark, something that does have that heightened emotion, which can then be transferred across to the reader through including it within your writing. So that's it from me. This was just a short video, just with recapping some things that you looked at, a bit of feedback about the work you completed. On the whole, I just want to say thank you for all the work you have been submitting. It's been fantastic. All right, and well done for the level of work you have been completing as well. All right, I know we're all working from home. I know it's all a bit different, but it's really, really good that you're keeping up with the work in the way that you are. As ever, any questions about any of the work that you've been set, or anything to do with your English remote learning, please do let me know. Either leave me a comment on Show My Homework or send an email through your college email. All right, and I will aim to do what I can. But otherwise, I'll leave you to it. All right, enjoy the rest of your day, and another of these videos will be up next week. Okay, bye.